And here's the rest of December part 3 in the Wednesday wards. You still have 2 questions to go. How did he say thanks? And what happened after they left Mickey Mantle? It was mercy alone that there was no one else on the bus. We drove through the cold night, well under the speed limit. The driver slowed down properly at every light, even if it was still green. He looked both ways, twice at every stop sign. "Do you think," I began, "look, I'm missing the Bing Crosby Christmas special, and I'm putting my job on the line for you, kid. It's not a great night, so do you want to be quiet, or do you want to get out?" I was quiet. I wrapped the blue floral cape around me. By the time we reached the bus stop a block away from the Baker's Sporting Emporium store, I was about as frantic as a fairy warrior being very quiet can ever get. The bus driver looked at his watch. 9:37, he said. "You'd better giddy up, John Wayne." He opened the door and I started down the steps. "You do have a baseball somewhere under that cape, right?" the driver asked. I stopped, dead. My baseball was back at the Festival Theater, in the locked men's dressing room. I almost cried. Almost. But I didn't, because if you're in grade 7 and you cry while wearing a blue floral cape and yellow tights with white feathers on the butt, you just have to curl up and die somewhere in a dark alley. The bus driver shook his head. "John Wayne is always prepared for what happens," he said. "Me too." He reached under the dashboard and pulled out a cardboard box filled with stuff. "You can't believe what people leave behind on their bus seats," he said. He reached into the box and pulled out, I am not making this up, a perfect new white baseball. Every seam tight and clean, like it had never even been thrown before. "He got no clothes that any decent person would wear," he said. "No bus fare and no baseball. How are you going to make it in this world, kid?" At that moment, I truly did not care. I stared at the baseball, its perfect whiteness filling my whole vision. The bus driver shook his head. "You better meet a whole lot of people who are really kind to you, kid." Then he handed the baseball to me, the perfect new white baseball. "Merry Christmas," he said. Again, I almost cried. I sprinted to the Baker's Sporting Emporium store, the blue cape straight out behind me, baseball in hand. Who knows what the white feathers were doing? And I made it. I really did. I slammed through the door, and there he was, Mickey Mantle. He was sitting at a table, dressed in his street clothes. Behind him, Mr. Mercutio Baker, who owned the Emporium, had put up a bulletin board of Yankee photographs, most of Mickey Mantle swinging away. Above them was a jersey with number 7. Mickey Mantle had signed his name below it. He was bigger than he looked on television. He had hands as large as shovels, and the forearms that came from his sleeves were strong as stone. His legs stuck out from beneath the table, and they looked like they could run down a train on a Long Island railroad. He yawned a couple of times, big yawns that he didn't even try to hide. He must have had a long day. In front of me, standing at the table all by themselves with Mickey Mantle, were Danny Hupfer and his father. Mickey Mantle was just handing a baseball back, and Danny was just taking it into his hands. It was sort of a holy moment, and the light that shone around them seemed to glow softly, like something you'd see in one of the stained glass windows at St. Andrew's. "Thanks," said Danny, and he said it in awe and worship. So that's number 4. "Yeah, kid," said Mickey Mantle. Then I came up. I held out the new, perfect white baseball and whispered, "Can I please have your autograph?" And he took the ball from my hand and held his pen over it. And then Mickey Mantle looked at me. Mickey Mantle looked right at me. And he spoke. "What are you supposed to be?" he said. I froze. What was I supposed to say? "You look like a fairy," he said. I coughed once. "I'm Ariel," I said. "Who?" "Ariel. Sounds like a girl's name." "He's a warrior," I said. Mickey Mantle looked me up and down. Yeah, sure he is. Listen, I don't sign baseballs for kids in yellow tights. Mickey Mantle looked at his watch and turned to Mr. Baker. It's past 9:30. I'm done. He tossed my new, perfect white baseball onto the floor. It rolled past my feet and into the folds of my blue cape. The world should split in two. The world should split in two, and I should fall into the crack and never be heard from again. Hauling Hood, me, the boy in yellow tights with white feathers on the butt and a blue floral cape. The boy Mickey Mantle wouldn't sign a baseball for. And Danny Hupford had seen it all. The yellow tights, the cape, the ball, everything. Danny Hupford, who stepped to the table and slowly placed his baseball signed by Mickey Mantle, back in front of the greatest player to put on Yankee pinstripes since Babe Ruth. I guess I don't need this after all, Danny said. He lifted his hand from it, and I could tell it wasn't easy. What's the matter, kid? Said Mickey Mantle. You are a pied ninny, said Danny Hupford. Come on, Holling. We picked up the bus driver's baseball, and I handed it to Danny. We turned and left Mickey Mantle behind us, and we didn't say anything. And that's number 5.